this is the Muir House, and it is a little house that we reserve for special exhibits. We have, over the last decade or so, focused on special themes such as food in the Kawarthas. We've looked at education, sports and leisure, and this year we have installed an exhibit on transportation through the years. There's a small committee of volunteers plus the staff at the village here that in the off season we research and we design and we install exhibits in this space. And we find that we can showcase not only new artifacts or artifacts that are new to our collection, but also we can bring out items that have not been on display for some time, if ever. So this is a way for us to provide the public with objects that we normally don't see. So the idea of transportation is based on the concept that humans have been on the move forever. And our earliest people in the Kawarthas, who have been here for centuries, not millennia, were very inventive and creative in the ways they used items for transportation. Of course, starting with the world famous snowshoes, which were used to travel in the deep snows of the Kawarthas. There are various types of them. Also the toboggan, which they invented to transport not only smaller people but goods from place to place. And then as Europeans came, they not only were able to survive with many of the skills that indigenous people imparted to them, but they adopted a lot of the transportation items, such as the toboggan, various forms of sleds and sleighs, which we have in our collection, were used usually by children. But probably the most famous is the birch bark canoe, which we have featured around the corner here. They, in the early settlements, it was only possible to move from place to place by water, and then of course in the Kawarthas there's lots of waterways to do that. The canoe is a very ingenious form of transportation because it's lightweight and quite maneuverable. Europeans brought skis, which are featured over in the corner here, and while we never had ski hills in this area, the skis were used often by children or by trappers to go from place to place. As the settlements started to grow, it was desirable to have some way of connecting, and the footpaths that were here originally were just not sufficient. So as they were built into roadways, the horse and to a degree the oxen, which were used in large numbers to help clear the land and cultivate the land, were also now used to transport people and goods from place to place. So on our back wall here we have several examples of horses in the winter with sleighs and sleds for bigger items such as lumber and logs, and all these which are now quite collectible fancy horse buggies, which were used to transport people. And almost everybody in town and in the countryside traveled this way in the late 19th century. And these three ladies here are the center of our exhibit and our enjoying an afternoon in this very unique sleigh, which has been restored and is here on display for us. The Kawarthas were also famous for steamships, which were used to transport large numbers of people, either visitors or regular residents, from places like Bobcaygeon to Lindsay and Peterborough, and they were the basis of many family businesses. But as the isolation of our area continued to be a problem, eventually the railroad was constructed from Toronto to here, and we have a small exhibit over here in the corner showing how important the railroad was to reducing the isolation of our area, and Bobcaygeon really prospered after that. From 1904 to the 1950s, it was a short-lived experience, but many people can still recall taking one or two trains that were available daily from here and back to Toronto, and we often imagine what that must have been like, just to get on a train here in our station and end up in Union Station in no time, in great comfort. I suppose the most significant transportation item of the 20th century was the motorized vehicle that we now know as the automobile or the car. And rural folks in remote areas could now deliver their products to town more effectively, as well as extend their social connections here and beyond. And many youth actually that learned about automobiles left our area for the industries in Oshawa, and Oakville, and Detroit, and some never to return. Our most famous item and our most precious, one of our most precious possessions in our collection, is this woot, and it's on display full-time in the Boyd Carriage Shed. It was built here, one of three in Bobcaygeon by the Moore Carriage Works on Bolton Street, and it was quite an invention, because it was very simply operated by a basic crankshaft, piston, and a two-cylinder engine. And the one we have was restored and donated to us. As time moved on, of course, the coming of the airplane was another very important development. We had within Bobcaygeon two landing strips and airports. Now, they were never large commercial operations. They were mostly used for private pilots and visitors. But we are proud to be part of that history of airplanes. And many pilots came out of the Bobcaygeon area not only to engage in World War II, but to maybe become commercial pilots elsewhere. So as you can see, in a small space, we were able to showcase the development of transportation over a period of time, and we hope that you'll be able to learn more about our very interesting area by visiting this exhibit.